Okay, so today we're going to talk about rotations. Now let's define what a rotation is. A rotation is a transformation that rotates a figure about a fixed point in a specific direction and degree. Okay, so what we use, our fixed point is the origin. Our direction is either clockwise or counterclockwise. And then lastly, our degree, the degrees that we're going to use are 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, and 360 degrees. So, here's our table. You're going to have this table memorized. The rotation is above the top, and then we have the pre-image and what it turns into for the image. Now, let's go through this for just a second. Now, 90 degrees counterclockwise. See, we're using CCW as counterclockwise. 90 degrees counterclockwise is the same thing as going 270 degrees clockwise. So if you see this or this, we're going to use the same exact image, pre-image. So for this one, X, Y, what we do is we flip our Y and our X's and we change the sign of our old Y. Now, same thing here. 180 degrees counterclockwise is the same thing as 180 degrees clockwise. So if you're turning and facing the back of the room, it doesn't matter which way you turn, to the left or to the right, you're still going to be facing the same direction at the end. So for this one, all we do is we change the sign of the X and the Y. Then we have 270 degrees clockwise, which is the same thing as 270 degrees counterclockwise, which is the same thing as 90 degrees clockwise. So for this one, we have Y, comma, negative X. Our X's and our Y are switching, and the old X, we're changing the sign of it. Now 360 degrees, either clockwise or counterclockwise, all you're doing is going a complete circle. You're not really changing what direction you're facing. So we just have X, Y. So this is definitely something you got to have memorized, put in your brain. Okay, so let's move on to example 1. It says we're going to rotate triangle PQR 270 degrees clockwise. P is located at 0, 6, Q is located at negative 1, 1, and R is located at 3, negative 2. So if you go look at the chart, we're doing 270 degrees clockwise. So the pre-image to the image for this one is negative y x. So let's start. P is originally at 0, 6. So P prime, what we do is we flip them and we change the sign of the old y, which is now the new x. So we're talking about changing the sign of this 6. So now it's going to be a negative 6. That's P prime. Q is at negative 1, 1. So for q prime, we're going to flip them so we have 1, negative 1, and we're going to change the sign of the old y. So our q prime is at negative 1, negative 1. Our r was originally at 3, negative 2. So our r prime, we're going to flip them. But now this negative 2 becomes a positive 2. So here are our final vertices of our image. So let's graph it. So initially we have 0, 6. That is P. We have negative 1, 1, which is Q. And then we have 3, negative 2, which is R. So let's connect those points. And then, for our new triangle, we have negative 6, 0, which is P prime. We have negative 1, negative 1, which is Q prime. And then we have positive 2, positive 3, which is R prime. So let's connect those points. There we go. Now, example 2 says quadrilateral LOVE has been rotated. The pre-image and image vertices are given. What rotation has taken place? So, we need to go through our chart and see what we can make sense of for this one. Now, 90 degrees counterclockwise or 270 degrees clockwise is we flip them and we change the sign of the old y. So first of all, notice these numbers are not flipped. They're in the same order. Same here and same here. So we can go ahead and rule out 90 degrees counterclockwise and 270 degrees counterclockwise because we flipped them. So it's either 180 degrees either way or 360 degrees either way. Now, let's look at the 180 degrees. All we have to do is change the sign of the x and the y. So here our sign is changed, here our sign is changed. We're good with L. Here the sign is changed, here the sign is changed. We're good with O. Here we change it, and here we change it. So V is good, and here we change it, and of course we can't change the sign of 0. So E is good. So what we're doing here is we're either rotating 180 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, because remember they are the same thing. Okay, so moving on to example 3, it says triangle COW is rotated 90 degrees clockwise and then moved 2 units down. If C is at -3, -5, O is at 3, 0, and W is at -1, 1, what are the vertices of the image? So first of all, let's write down what we have to do to it to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. So we're going to take X and Y, and we're going to have Y negative X. Okay, so let's start on that one. So C originally is at -3, -5. So we're going to flip them, and we're going to change the sign of the old X, which is now the new Y. So this 3 becomes positive. Forgot to label that C prime. Sorry. O is at 3, 0. So we're going to flip them, and we're going to change the sign of the old X, which is now the new Y. W is at -1, 1. So W prime, we're going to flip them. Excuse me, that should be a positive 1. So we're going to flip them. And we're going to change the sign of the negative 1. So positive 1, positive 1. Now we've got to take care of the other part of this. It says that we're going to move it 2 units down. Now we don't have left or right this time, which is fine. We're only going to move it 2 units down. So up and down is our y, and since we're going down, we're going to subtract 2 from y. So our translation statement for this one, we aren't doing anything to the x. It doesn't say move left or right. But for our y, we've got to subtract 2 from it. So let's take our primed ones. So remember, we're starting from here. So for C prime, we have negative 5, 3. So we aren't doing anything to negative 5, but 3, we're subtracting 1 from it. So our final C, so C prime prime, is at negative 5, 2. O prime is at 0, negative 3. So we aren't doing anything to the x, but we're going to subtract. Why did I subtract 1 there? That should be a 2. I'm so sorry. That should be a 2. So we have 3 minus 2, which makes this a 1. I apologize. So you have negative 3 minus 2. So now for O prime prime, we have 0, negative 5. And then for W prime, we have 1, 1. So we aren't changing the x, but we've got to subtract 2 from the y. So W prime prime is 1, negative 1. So here are our final vertices, and let's graph it. So originally we were at negative 3, negative 5. Three, 0. And negative 1, 1. And let's connect those dots. Then we have negative 5, 1. So that's C prime, prime. O is at 0, negative 5. And then W prime prime is at 1, negative 1. So let's connect these. And there is our final pre-image and image.